Hi guys, and welcome to my next painting video. We're going to be looking at how light moves across different surfaces and how we can connect all the different objects that we have in our still life through the use of light. And specifically what we're looking at is a light and shadow painting, a chiaroscuro painting, which is basically where we have a directional light coming from one side, and we've got a light side and we've got a dark shadow side, and everything in your arrangement, so whether it's like a vase or a mandarin or a flower, it's going to be broken into those two realms, so a light side and a dark side, a shadow side. And if you have a look at my other video, we talked about how a light and shadow intention works. In the light side we have light, we have highlight, and we have a darker light, and the darker light is never as dark as anything that's in the shadow side. And on the shadow side we have the shadow, and then we have a cast shadow, a core shadow that sits around here, and a reflected light. So, and anything that's light within the shadow side is never as light as anything in the light side. So this is something, if you want to understand painting and painting a light and shadow painting, is key to painting a light and shadow painting. Now the next thing that we're going to be looking at is how to move the light in your, sort of connect all the different objects within your painting using that understanding of how light moves and how it, like all the different optical illusions that we have. So let's get onto that. So before we get into that a little bit more, I'm just going to talk to you a little bit about I start painting. So I start painting, I do not do a line drawing, as you can see on this little piece of canvas paper. This I just have drawn that so that you can sort of see where I'm coming from when I say I don't do a line drawing. The reason why I don't do a line drawing is because in a line drawing I cannot see the mass of it in relationship to the actual format of the actual piece of canvas. So I can't tell if this mandarin is too big, if it's far enough or if close enough to the edges or far enough away. If it's too big, the size and placement of it, do I need to actually shrink that down? By actually having it all as a line painting, I can't tell that, and I can only start telling that when I start putting paint on, because this may look quite small, but when you actually put paint on, it grows, it looks bigger than actually what it currently looks as a line drawing. So that's why if you mass it in, you'll see the mass of it, you'll see the actual generalized shape of it, and whether or not that size is specifically perfect for the format that I'm painting on. The other thing it helps with is also the placement of it. So that's the size. So for the placement of it, is it too far or too close to different edges? Is it sitting within the composition? In this case, you can sort of see that the mandarin is sitting smack bang right in the middle. And I'll show you how that looks on my actual piece of canvas. So let's put that up there, put my canvas here. Now the other thing I want to kind of talk to you guys about is your palette. Now my palette, I always have my colors set out in the exact same way. So in this case, I've got all my warm colors over this side and all my cool colors over here. Now within this cool side, I have a warm and cool variant of a blue, but in relationship to the reds and the oranges, the blue is going to be cool. So these are my cool colors, these are my warm colors, but within each individual hue, I'm going to have a warm and cool variant of those. I hope that makes a bit of sense. Now the other thing I just wanted to sort of talk to you guys about, and this is what I see in my classes all the time, is when people come to my class, they put out a little skerrick of paint like this, or this one over here, and it's really hard to get a lot of paint onto a surface, even though it's this is very small, even though it's really small. If I keep it a small thing, I'm going to have to continually go and find my cadmium orange within my palette box, and it interrupts the flow. So I suggest put out a large amount of paint on your palette. It doesn't work so much for acrylic, because obviously acrylics will dry, but there's all those lovely ways you can actually stop your acrylics from drying out these days. But I do suggest putting a large portion of paint out, because then you can actually pick up a large portion of paint and put it on your surface. Okay, so the next thing I wanted to tell you is that I don't use any solvents in my studio. I use paper towels to dry my brush off. You can kind of see my paintbrush is quite dirty, but if I get enough of the pigment off, I can then pick up other pigment, and then that color also infects other things as well. I'm using a solvent-free fluid by Gambling. I'm trying it out because I'm finding that I can't even have this odorless solvent in my studio anymore. I think that's all you need to know. All right, so let's start and let's have a look at how I go about painting this little Mandarin. So I'm going to show you specifically that whole idea of that size and placement first of all. So size and placement. Okay, so when I start talking about masses, this is what I do. I pick up a pigment. I try and make a neutral colour. This is like a blue lac, which is kind of like a phthalo blue. So blue lac black. It's called blue lac because it's Old Holland. I don't know other colours. So if I was to use exactly that same this drawing here and put that Mandarin, that shape there, it would be about this big. And this is how I mass it in. I'm just massing it. I'm just caressing my canvas. Now I've got a couple little grapes over here. Mass those in over here, and then I've got here, and this here is my. And by looking at that, I can see that the size of this Mandarin is quite large, particularly in relationship to the actual size of the canvas. It's also smack bang right in the center of my canvas, which makes it a very static composition, and I'm not going to want to have a static composition. I want to have I wanted to actually have some movement in it, so therefore I can move it. And because I haven't got a detailed line drawing, I can easily just wipe it out, and I won't be loath to move it. I'm no commitment to it. You could see how quickly it took me to put it in, and now I can actually change the location of that mass. And I'm going to mass it over here, and I'm going to make it quite a lot smaller because I don't want it to be this huge shape. I want to have some space around it so that the painting actually has room to breathe, and then I'm going to be able to put in a couple of other little bits of pieces, those little things, and that there is my size and placement of my Mandarin. And I can tell, I know that you're probably thinking, hey, wait a minute, aren't you painting a light and shadow? Why don't you have this as your shadow side and this is your light side? I'm just massing it in because I can, as you can see, I can easily wipe it out. And with acrylics, you can easily just paint over the top of things, but you have that ability to just see what you're doing, and you're going to move. You can move very quickly, make very quick decisions, and you can suddenly see how your painting is going to work very, very quickly rather than doing this line drawing. So that's generally what I'm trying to get across to you guys. That's what I'm doing. Okay, so I'm going to wipe just the light side out of that just for that. Now I'm going to start painting my actual Mandarin and massing in different colours and all that sort of stuff. So I'm going to paint the shadow side of my Mandarin. And while I'm painting in my shadow side of my Mandarin, I'm also going to try and paint in the shadow side of the tabletop as well. Now I could use the same colour, but I actually want to just have a little bit of a different colour because the actual tabletop itself is green. I'm going to use that for those ones as well. I'm going to just... Okay. So now I'm going to just paint in the light side and the actual background. So the light side of my my Mandarin is, I want it to be very, very bright. I want it to look like it's nicely lit up, because when light hits an object, it lights it up immediately. And so therefore I'm going to use pigment that comes straight out of the tube. Now the reason why I'm going to use pigment straight out of the tube, because it's got the most chroma in it, it's the most brilliant, and it this is the color I particularly want to put down initially, and then I can come and I can change it afterwards. So I'm just going to mass that in very quickly just to cover that side. I can come and change it afterwards, but I'm just massing it in. That's my light side, this is my shadow side, and they look, currently the actual painting doesn't look very interesting. It doesn't look like 3D. It has no filling whatsoever, in the sense of I haven't actually got a lot of, it's not pretty. It's a long way from finished. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to mass in the background, and that's going to take a little bit of time, but I just want to, I'm going to do that very quickly, and I'm going to stop talking so that I can get that done. Okay, so that's very, very quickly masked in, and that's just perfect. I can now come in and start making my, make it look three-dimensional, and start making the light move around my actual composition. So to make, so on my shadow side, I have a shadow side, core shadow, and I've got a reflected light. So I'm going to put that reflected light in now. This is my reflected, this is my... So the tabletop is green. I'm going to reflect it into it some green light and make sure it's not as light as this is my shadow side, but it's still got to be lighter than this, so I need it to come up and make it a bit lighter. And then I can put that in. So how much my reflected light moves into my light is totally up to me. I can actually can join up. It's totally up to me. Or I could just sit. It could be like light, core shadow, reflected light, light. This could be my composition. This is some things I'm just thinking about. But anyway, that's getting a little bit more complicated. Let's now find a way to soften this edge here like we did with the ball. So I'm going to take my orange, and I'm going to lighten the caress, like I'm going to caress the colour into my shadow. I'm just going to just soften this edge. I could just run my paintbrush down along that edge very easily, just like that. And that darkens the orange where it meets the shadow. I can bring that shadow colour into here. I'm just softening that edge, just making it such that it's no longer a focal point. It's soft, and my eye's just going to glide over it. Now the light on a Mandarin has, like the Mandarin actually has a top plane. It sort of has this little ledge here. And so the light of it actually comes across the top. Comes across the top like that. So again, I'm going to just sort of soften that edge there, pull it across. And this now is my Mandarin is starting to sort of take shape. Now, if I didn't like that color of the shadow, I could have adjusted it, but I'm actually just going to leave it because I'm actually quite happy with it. And then I'm going to now focus my attention on how to get your eye to sit on the actual the light side, and how the light actually moves out off the Mandarin onto other surfaces, so that I'm going to connect my different objects, my background, my tabletop, to my Mandarin. So light will hit. Sorry, just going to get a piece of paper. Move that up there. So this is my Mandarin, and my light is hitting here. And the light actually will flow, it'll hit and it will flow off into surrounding areas. So hit and flow down. So this is my shadow side here. So the light will sort of move off into the distance here. It'll escape down through here. That's what I'm now going to do. I'm going to create the light that is escaping and moving into other surfaces. And so if, say for example, there was a vase behind here, I would push that color into the vase. So how much I infect the background color with the color of the mandarin is totally up to me. I can just lightly do it, very lightly or very strongly. But just by doing that, I'm creating a connection between these two objects, and the light feels like it's moving away out of this object onto another object, and I'm creating a connection between the two things. And so it's just not static. Now the other area where I told you, it comes and it flows off through down here, just where the light side hits the shadow side, and so therefore it comes down through here and comes onto the tabletop and infects down through this way. And just by doing that, I've now created a lovely connection with the mandarin to the actual tabletop. So I've done my light side, I've done my shadow side, I've done my core shadow. Now I'm going to put in a highlight onto my my light side. How much I change and move this paint around and what I do on here is totally up to me. I can spend a lot of time just trying to get this thing to look more and more realistic by adding more and more paint. But I don't, just for the purpose of this video, I'm just not going to do a detailed drawing, detailed painting. I'm just trying to show you how light moves. Now this is my highlight section of all right, I'm quite happy with how that looks. Now for a lot of people, a lot of teachers, they might tell you things like along the edge, on this edge here of your mandarin or of your shape, it gets darker as it gets away from your lightest area. This here is your lightest area, and then it gets darker as it goes away. And it isn't actually true. When light hits your object is immediately lit. It instantly is lit. It has color. It is moving through space, but it is immediately lit. And if you want to have this bright, glowing feel to your actual objects, you need to understand that you're not going to darken this edge here. What you're going to do is you're going to lighten the edge of the background, the thing that's behind it, and that's going to make your mandarin looks like it's glowing, and it's going to create again that connection between it and the background. So around the actual edge of my mandarin through here, if I lighten this, and how much I lighten it is totally up to me, but if I lighten it, it's going to make my mandarin look like it's glowing, and it's going to have this glowing light. As opposed to it not looking like it's as opposed to it being very static. So again, I've got this colour coming into And that is how light moves and is created on a three-dimensional surface, and you get connections between the different objects within your still life composition. I hope this has helped. I can continue painting this, and I will go off camera and continue and finish it, and so then you can see how much I can do to finish my painting. But basically this is the understanding of how light moves, infects things, how it all the different things in your composition work. But this is how you create those connections, by understanding how light works and how light moves. And you know, I can darken things if I want to make this darker, to really make that look like it's glowing, like that. Like the more I darken around here, and then lighten that one side, that section through here, will make that mandarin look like it is actually glowing. And there's light movement. There's this feeling of connection between the two, and I can soften that edge just a little bit more if I want to, down through here with the mandarin. There's a couple of ways you can do it. I can infect the colour into the background, or I can soften this edge. And by softening that edge as well, what I'm doing is I'm bringing your attention into this section of the mandarin. So moving your eye through the composition to the places that I want. So soft edges, your eye glides over. Hard edges, your eye is attracted to more texture. Your eye is attracted to less texture, your eye flows over. These are little things that you need to start to understand as well, but they'll be looked at in different videos. So hopefully that's been helpful, and I'm just going to sign off for now. Okay, so the painting is complete. You can kind of see how, as I was showing you, that how the light works. So I know there's a little bit of glare on this painting. I might see if I can tip it this way, what happens. Yeah, that's actually a little bit better. So you can see right here that the glow from the actual light is glowing out into the background. I've moved it out here. I've also down and infected it down through here. And so this is what I'm talking about when, you know, by doing that, I've got a connection between this and this mandarin, and the little the tabletop, the background, as well as the little grapes that are in front. And basically how I finish a painting is completely up to me. I can say that this is completely finished because I've created the intention that I had for the painting. But you can see it was very, very easily done. The light is moving. You can see that the light moves across here, comes up here, hits these two little grapes, gets into the mandarin, and then comes out and flows out through here, and then comes back around here. And so I'm always looking for light movement in my work. And this is the one way to create those connections between things that look like disparate objects, but there's actually a connection between them. I hope that this has helped, and this is going to be something that you can do in your own work. I'll do a little bit more about it in other videos, but this is generally what happens when you're painting light. You're trying to find these connections, and having this makes it feel like it's glowing. It feels like there is light in this actual composition, and that's what is going to attract your viewers to your painting. The shadow side, people don't see the shadow side. They look at the light, they look at where all the warmth and texture is. And so the shadow could be any color I like, but as long as it follows the form, it follows here, it's following the form, it looks and reads like it's actually it is shadow. But I could have made this blue, I could have made it green, I could have made it any color I wanted, as long as tonally it sat where it was, and I put more and more information in the light side, and that's where the eye will go, to here, to the contrast, the actual the hard edges. Soft edges, your eye will glide over, and this is what it has done here. It's gliding over this and moving out here to this harder edge, and this is the kind of thing that you will need to learn to use when you're painting. Okay, I hope that's been helpful, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video.